Well, boys, now this is a new chapter, the search for genetic matter. Before we go into the details of it, let us just run through the properties of genetic matter. Here are 4 basic properties that a genetic matter ought to have. First, it should be able to replicate itself, or replication. Secondly, stable, it has to be stable. Third, mutation, it needs to mutate at certain points in time so that it brings evolution, or it fosters evolution. And then it should be able to express itself in Mendelian, in the form of Mendelian characters. Now I'll just go through each of these. Replication means sorry about that. Replication is the ability, or it should be able to make complementary bases. For example, I've just drawn a genetic DNA, a section of the DNA here with the codes given on one side. And we can easily guess or write the complementary bases on the other side, because we know that T always goes with A, G always goes with C. A with T, G, C again. C is here, we get G here. T is here, we get an A here. Since A is here, the last one, we get T. So this is how we can just write down the new base pairs. But what it means is a genetic matter, if this is the genetic matter, it should be able to make a new one. Replicate itself. So the entire genome can be copied. So that is one important property of the genetic matter. Second was stable. Genetic matter ought to be stable. And I feel let's talk about a bacteria. Okay, here's a bacteria which has been heated to a certain degree, where to a temperature where the cytoplasmic metabolic activities are stopped. So the bacteria is basically dead. It cannot function at all. What happens to the DNA? The DNA, when you increase the temperature, you know that the DNA has hydrogen bonds in between. So that it breaks apart. The hydrogen bond breaks apart, and then it denatures itself, meaning it loses its nature of this double helix, and it turns to form 2 different strands. So that's what happens to DNA when you increase the temperature. But it also renatures itself. When you decrease the temperature, it joins back again to form what it was, to acquire its original structure. Okay, so that is the ability of the DNA. So that we'll be talking about this heat-kill bacteria again in a while, but just understand that DNA is stable than the cytoplasmic organelles, which are, once if they are not able to work, they will, and if they die, they will not be able to work again. But here, in the case of DNA, it breaks apart, but when temperatures, conditions which are favorable arrive, it renatures itself. So that is what stability means. Stability also has to do with the third point, mutation. DNA matter has to be able to mutate. Okay? So in order to illustrate that, I'm going to bring RNA and DNA. In DNA, the sugar, the pentose sugar, we understand that this is the pentose sugar, and it has 5 carbons. Okay, of course this is occupied by oxygen, but we have another carbon here. Okay, the 5th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'll deal with that later on. But just observe here, DNA and RNA. RNA has two OH groups in these two carbons, whereas DNA has only one OH. So the simple thing is this: it has more, RNA has more of oxygen than DNA. Therefore, because of the presence of more atoms of oxygen here, it is more reactive. Therefore, it is more susceptible to change. Therefore, RNA changes a lot or mutates a lot. Just to give you an example, viruses. The DNA matter of, or the genetic matter of virus is in the form, most of it is in the form of RNA. And therefore, these viruses are always mutating. They mutate very quickly. Within months or days or weeks, they change into a different form or different character. They can acquire different character. Whereas in the case of DNA, this DNA takes a long time to mutate. For example, let's say human evolution. We know that the Neanderthal man took thousands of years to form the modern man, because DNA is so stable and it kind of mutates at a slower pace. Therefore, Neanderthal or any organism that has its genetic codes written in the form of DNA will resist evolution. They will evolve, but they will take a longer time. As against RNA, which mutates quickly. As we can see today, we have this COVID virus, which is also mutating. Once it was a very strong, virulent, deadly virus. Now it probably, hopefully, is losing its sting. Now, the third one, the last one is the DNA ought to be able to express itself in the form of Mendelian characters. What are the Mendelian characters? What it means is, we talked about Mendel and we've gone through this capital T and small t a lot of times. It means two traits. One is a tall trait and the other is a dwarf trait. Now these traits go or pass on to the offspring. The offspring can either be tall or dwarf. So in the same way, DNA ought to be able to carry different genetic characters into the offspring, like for example the color of eyes and the color of skin, okay, that comes from the parents, passed on to the offspring. So if any organic matter has these four properties, then we conclude that that particular substance is the genetic matter. Right?